Jace Lejeune, Gridiron Football, on another edition of the Chase with Jace. And once again, I'm with Marcus Randall, former LSU quarterback. And Marcus, it's actually been a while since we've been together and done this show because it's been the middle of the season for Woodlawn. I know it's obviously pretty tough to come over here and with the season going on and everything, but you can't miss LSU and Alabama. I know that for a fact.
Can't
Marcus.
miss this one, man. You know, this is the one. This is the one day that we look for every year. This is the one that everybody circles on their calendar. And this is the big one right here. And I think it's going to be this game is going to be like it's been in the past couple of years. The one that says who goes to the SEC championship.
Yeah, that's pretty much what's going to come down to, and we're going to talk about this big game. And first of all, we're going to talk and speak hear from Coach Brian Kelly, who's at his press conference on Monday. Really haven't heard from him in a week because they had a bye week last week.
Right.
So the first thing we're going to play is a short clip. Brian Kelly talks about exactly what a lot of people are wondering about, what y'all do during the bye week. I mean, so that's kind of the first question that came to mind. So let's play it. So this is what Brian Kelly had to say about what they did in their bye week to prepare for Alabama.
What did you kind of drill down on, and was it a back to fundamentals thing, a rest thing? What did you?
Yeah, I think a little bit of everything. I think we talked about it last week. I think it was important for us to do some self-scouting, some things that we needed to work on. I think it was important that, you know, from a technical standpoint, we continue to grow technically in some areas, you know, on both sides of the ball. And then, you know, you still want to meet a workload, you know, criteria because, you know, you just can't continue to go through the season and then all of a sudden, you know, put up a stop. So we got to about 70% of our average workload last week and gave the guys some active rest over the weekend. And then they reported last night and we're back to work today.
So Brian Kelly just pretty much said about they just were working on just trying to work on some of the fundamentals, especially defensively. You know, as that's always a unit on that side of the football LSU can definitely improve on and get better. And we've seen them make strides in at least the last couple of games. We've seen their defense make strides and about getting healthy, or at least trying to get healthy. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But Marcus, so the last time we actually seen LSU play was 2 weeks ago, and really the last two games, I'm not sure how much of a grasp you can really take from the last two games because LSU played Army and they played Auburn, which has been kind of struggling this year. On their first year, head football coach Hugh Freeze at Auburn, but especially on the defensive side of football, because we know the offense, you know what you're going to get from the offense.
Right.
The question is how many strides will LSU take on the defensive side of football? They did really good against Auburn. They had their best game on the defensive side of the football in the SEC, and then they played against Army and, you know, pitched a shutout right there.
Right.
But how much do you really take away from, like, even though the defense played well, doing it against two teams that you're pretty much expected to perform at a high level against?
Well, at this time right now, you're trying to build any kind of confidence that you had. I know we struggled a little bit earlier on the defensive side, and maybe due to a lot of guys new in that secondary, you know, guys that's trying to adjust to being, you know, part of the DBU, LSU, you know, tradition that we've had over the past years. But you know, having that success right there, no matter who the opponents are, you know, having that success and being able to hone that and take it into a bye week when you can take those things that you've done well now over the last couple of weeks, and also hit on some of the things that you didn't do so well early on in the year. So you kind of had a week there to kind of go like we heard Brian Kelly say, go back to the fundamental, go back to some of the corrections without having to prepare for an actual team that is for that week. So you had a lot of time to be able to work and get some things corrected, and you can also look to the future at this Alabama game that's coming up with a whole nother week to prepare. So I think we're in a great spot right there. I think that we should be able to see a big improvement going into the Alabama game, even though we got some guys that's not going to be playing.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that too. And for more information about that, you actually go to our website, gridironfootballusa.com is actually behind us, as you can see on the banner behind us. But I did talk about some of the guys being out and who are some kind of the next guys up. So Brian Kelly did talk about, and just to let you know, that LSU did lose a big piece on the defensive line, and that is Mekhi Wingo. That's the number 18.
Right.
That's the leader of this defense. A lot of people, I was shocked because he did sit out I believe the Army game just to get healthy. It's like, okay, like you're going to rest him for Army and hopefully you get him back against Alabama. But the news, unfortunately, was not good for Mekhi Wingo. He went through surgery during the bye week, and it turns out that the results from it is going to take a little bit longer time. They're saying at least 6 weeks. And if anything, if let's say LSU does make a miraculous run, they go to the SEC championship, they win the SEC championship. He did say I'll be available for the playoff if it comes up, but 6 weeks, maybe he plays in the bowl game, but we just have to see. But LSU, they had to deal with that last year with Mason Smith being out for the whole year, and you had guys like Mekhi Wingo that stood up, but that's a good thing about the LSU defensive line, Marcus, and Kelly's going to talk about it right here about there's a lot of options to look at on the defensive line, and Brian Kelly talked about a couple of them to fill in for Mekhi Wingo.
Jordan Jefferson's playing at a high level. It's graded out probably as our best defensive tackle. Physical at the point of attack, uses his hands well. It's getting great separation. Gap integrity has been outstanding. It's playing really well. Parashan, technically very, very good. Grading out at the top for our defensive line over the last 3 weeks. And Swinson's been really good in pass rush. So those three guys, we, as much as it hurts that, we don't have a few of the guys that we got in the portal at the defensive back position, those three guys, and having Omar back too, makes a difference. Having a veteran linebacker who knows the game really well, those four guys have made a significant difference for us.
Is Brian Kelly talking about some of the defensive line depth, and he's pretty high on those guys. And I believe Jordan Jefferson, it's kind of crazy every time I say Jordan Jefferson. I think about the quarterback. But this is the West Virginia transfer, and Brian Kelly has just raved about him. I think he's actually the highest graded defensive lineman on the team this year. So he's been really successful. He's number 99 on the football team. So big number 99. Then you have Braden Swinson, he talked about on the edge, number 13. You have Savion Jones, who's been starting for him. You still have Mason Smith in the middle of the defense. Parashan has come about, has done a lot of really good things, and I know I'm missing somebody else, but I mean it's been a pretty good depth position piece for LSU to have those guys on defensive line play really well, and then have Pete Jenkins too coming back and do a lot of great things. And have you noticed any of a difference with Pete Jenkins coming and working with the defensive line?
Well, you're gonna always notice something when Pete comes back. I mean, he's like the D-line guru. You know, I think this may be his third, fourth, fifth stint with LSU. He comes in as needed. Every time they feel like they need a little extra boost on the D-line, they know they can call him, and he comes back in and he kind of gives them those fundamentals or whatever they lacking. He kind of comes in and fix those things. So we were able to see some of those things in the last few games since he's been back.
And although the defensive line situation's pretty good and intact right now, even though you're losing an All-American like Mekhi Wingo, because you got other pieces you can build on. The defensive back situation, and that's going to be it's going to be something to watch. That's all I want to say. You do have your safety still playing. Andre Sam, he had 2 interceptions in the Army game, and has been coming about as a really good football player from in the back end of the defense. You have Major Burns, has been a veteran for you, and has probably made. We talk about LSU's offense making all these great plays, but probably the play of the year had to be the pick six that he had against Missouri.
That was big, because that was one that we was, it was back and forth. It looked scary right there toward the fourth quarter, like we didn't know. And then he had the pick six, and we all know what Jaden Daniels came in and did after the injury, and I think that helped his Heisman hopes too.
Yeah, it certainly did. But now you have the defensive situation here. Brian Kelly updated us about a lot of the situations. A lot of the guys they got from the transfer portal are not really available. The only one that came from the transfer portal that's going to be available for Alabama is Andre Sam. And he's pretty much the only one. Zy Alexander got hurt in the Army game right before halftime. He picked off a Hail Mary and was running down the signs. Last play before halftime, that was really unfortunate too. He goes down and was down for a while, and the trainers were checking on him, and it doesn't look great either.
Right.
Now, Kelly didn't say a timetable per se, but it does look like he's going to be out for a while.
Right.
Is pretty much all he said. So now you don't have Denver Harris. He's not available. You don't have Deuce Chestnut. He's not available right now. So guess what you're looking at right now, Marcus? You're looking at freshmen.
Look at some freshmen.
Some freshmen for the biggest challenge of the season
Correct.
against those wide receivers. So if you're Javian Toviano, you're Jeremiah Hughes,
Right.
you're Ashton Stamps, a lot of names that if you're watching the show are saying, who? Exactly. There's going to be new names that come up, and they're going to have to play big for LSU on Saturday.
Well, I mean, I know they're young, and I know those other guys had they troubles early too. So I mean, it might be time for somebody to step in and make a name for themselves. And if they're trying to do it, this is a stage to do it on.
Well, Andy said, well, they don't have any film on them. They don't
Right.
really know what their tendencies are, and maybe it's not the worst thing for throw these guys out there and see what they do. Brian Kelly, he talked about the situation and just his confidence and what he thinks about those guys.
I'm sure a lot of LSU fans following our tweets and watching live probably freaking out a little bit about the fact that you have all these defensive backs out, and now Wingo is out for the rest of the season. How do you deal with this? Obviously, you got a great offense going, and this is not your first big game, but it's a big game, and you're missing some key pieces on your defense going.
Yeah, clearly we'd love to have, Wingo in the lineup, but he has an injury, and, we're built for injuries. You can't be built for 11 players. We have depth. We have good players that will step up and be ready to play, and will play at a high level. So, again, it's part of football. In this game, if you lose one guy and you're not able to answer the bell, then you're not very good. We think we've got a good football team. We're going to miss them, but we have guys that will step up and compete at a high level.
Brian Kelly talking about the defensive back situation. Well, he shows that he has confidence in those guys.
Right.
If anything, he's going
That's
to
his. I mean, he recruited these guys.
Yeah, right.
So obviously, he knows something about them, and they wouldn't be there if he didn't think they had the right to be there.
You're right. So, but it's a good opportunity, and these guys are going to have to grow up fast because they got a lot of really talented receivers at Alabama. Jermaine Burton, who's been catching a lot of touchdowns this year, he kind of leads the way for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Mm-hmm. And then we'll talk about Jalen Milroe, we'll talk about that offense and how that really looks. But we know one thing's for certain, and that is I think LSU's going to put up their points for this Saturday.
Right.
So Jaden Daniels has been phenomenal this year, Marcus. And as a former quarterback yourself, a former LSU quarterback, it just has to be highest level of play. I mean, besides you take away Joe Burrow and what he did in 2019, this is pretty much the benchmark as far as great quarterback play is concerned.
It's right there, and we can say that every game that he played pretty much this year, he's had us in it to win it, and but I just think that Missouri game kind of set it, kind of set it off right there, and showing that I just thought that game went through and progressed, that it was no doubt in my mind every possession that we had, I knew they weren't gonna stop us. Every third down we got to, I said if they crowd the box, we got one-on-ones outside with our neighbors and Thomas,
right,
where they were looking unstoppable. So if you go and try to guard them or double team them, then you leave less in the box, and he was able to use his legs, and he was picking it up easy, and I could see it almost before the play happened. I'm like, okay, he's finna get this first down running. Oh, okay, he's finna throw it right there, and there's nothing they could do about it. So when you got a guy back there like that, and he's been playing at that level, like I say, he's Heisman hopeful, and if he could put up one of those stellar performances, and we can come out with the victory, I look forward to seeing him, in that race. Now I don't want to jinx.
Yeah.
I know last year,
right.
I know last year one of those games when it came down to it.
Well, I blame myself for that. I blame it.
But so I don't really. Let me take the Heisman back. Let's just say that I think they're gonna go out and put up one of those performances they had last year against Alabama, and I think that we're gonna like the outcome of it, because again, if we can put points up, then our defense don't have to be as great. We can keep that pressure on.
let's just say last year, Andy said it was after the Bama game.
Right.
Andy was telling Jace, you need to write an article campaigning Jaden for the Heisman. And I was like,
Right.
"Are you sure about this thing?" He was like, "Yeah, go and do it." So I did all my research. I put the article up and all the reasons why he should be for the
Correct.
Heisman. Next week they play against Arkansas, and let's just say it was not his best game.
Correct,
and like,
correct.
Yeah, so
That's
I
why
kind of jinxed him a little
back.
bit.
That's why I took that back. Man. No, I'm not going to even talk that far yet. We're going to just talk. We're going to stay on Alabama.
But the numbers been crazy. I'll just rattle off some of them so far. LSU leads the country in scoring. They're the number one offense in the country. 47 points per game, 552 yards of offense. They're number 3 in the country in passing offense, and they're top 15 in rushing offense. So this is an offense where we can talk about Jaden Daniels and the wide receivers and Thomas and Neighbors and being able to throw the football and how he's grown as a quarterback throwing the football. But they've been able to run the football too, not just with
Right.
Jaden's legs, but Logan Diggs. Every time he's been the bell cow for him in this offensive line, this is a balanced offense. This isn't just a one-dimensional offense we're seeing right now.
Well, when you got a quarterback that could do it and you have to key on him, he gets everything else open, and along with the offensive line, and getting Emory back, that'll be another big thing for that offensive line, depth wise, and just putting them up a whole nother notch. But when you got a key on the quarterback, whether he gonna keep it, whether he gonna give it and keep it, or whether he gonna fake it and throw it, that's a lot for a defense to have to prepare for. And even if you prepare for it, you never know when it's gonna happen. So. And he's doing it at, like we say, at a high level, and he's keeping them off balance. Coach Denbrock over there doing a great job of managing him and making sure defenses have to be on their toes.
And how important is it for you, because you've grown and just gotten more accustomed with you and Jimbo, right?
Right.
Just having that camaraderie together and just knowing what he's thinking, he's knowing what you're thinking. How much does that help, having another year with the same coordinator and the same offense, help a guy like Jaden Daniels?
Man, tremendously. If you go back to the Florida State game last year, when everybody was in panic mode, the first couple games, that is, and we knew there was a new quarterback coming in, a new system underneath a new coach, a new head coach. So you had to get that way of thinking, and you were like a coach on the field. So when you can go through that process of what we did last year and the success we had last year, and then come back into this year, you've been in practice, with the same coach that you went through scenario after scenario, situation after situation. You pretty much know the calls that he's going to make before he makes them, and that coach can give, like, I know this quarterback does this the best. He like these plays the best in this situation, because you got a chart there on every situation, every down. Each coach, each coordinator is charting about 5, 6, 7 to 10 plays that they like in certain situations. So out of those 10, I know what my quarterback likes. Out of those 10, I know these is top 3 or these is top 4 plays. And if we can get to those plays, we're going to execute.
And we've seen that. I mean, not only with Jaden, but we've seen a year where, another year in the system, quarterbacks get better. Jaden got better from last year to this year, and we saw the end of the first year of him really starting to figure out. Joe Burrow, the same thing.
Same thing.
And in that first year, he was starting to really figure it out. And the second year, he goes off. And even Zach Mettenberger, even his first year, he played really well against Alabama in a loss. And at the end of his first year, he was starting to figure out, had a pretty good second season. So we're starting to see that with more and more with quarterbacks, especially in the SEC, because that's an adjustment for a lot, especially with Daniels and Burrow playing like up in a different league, a different conference, and playing up in the SEC as well. Makes a lot of difference there. So before we hear from Brian Kelly once more, Marcus, as far as the Heisman Trophy is concerned, you have him as a front runner right now?
I don't know it as a front runner right now. It's kind of hard to have him as a front runner with 2 losses, and you really haven't had that big, big key game yet.
Right.
So I think this is the key game for him. Obviously, we still got to finish the whole season out strong, but I think this is that key game that could put everybody on notice, and every Heisman Trophy winner have that one game that's been circled on their calendar, and people, they have great season all season long, but they're looking to see what is he going to do in this game. And I think this is the one on the road in Alabama. I look back, this is what we were with Joe Burrow on the road in Alabama. Everybody looking to see what he was going to do, and we go and we torch him. That's what we're looking at right now.
Yeah. So, in your opinion, like, Jaden has to win this game in order to be in the Heisman conversation.
Yeah. Like I tell a lot of guys, even though they're individual accolades, it always kind of go off of what your team does. So
Right.
even if I think he puts up a bunch of numbers, I think we got to win the game. I think we
Right.
got to win the game because that's what quarterbacks get judged off wins and losses at the end of the day. And I just I think it'll just be hard for us to have a 3-loss and
Yeah.
be in there. So I think that unless you just break game records and
throws
game
for
records, right.
7 touchdowns and
Right.
lose. I mean,
Which can happen too as well.
Yeah.
So, but I think that we definitely need to win the game, and he definitely need to have a great performance there to be able to get on that stage.
And so, actually, Brian Kelly talked about, he was actually asked at the press conference how important this game is for Jane Daniels' Heisman chances, and he goes and talks about this.
With Jaden Daniels, fair or unfair, I think a lot of people that are watching the Heisman hopefuls are going to look at this game in particular for him and see how he does. Do you, given all the football you've seen him play, and obviously, your very nuanced view of what he's done here, do you think that's fair? And is that something that, what's your expectation?
It'll be part of the body of work throughout the entire season. He's going to have other games. He's going to have the Florida game and Georgia State and Texas A&M and postseason, but it'll certainly be part of the body of work. If he throws 4 interceptions and, certainly we don't play well, that will be part of the body of work throughout the entire season. So, again, I don't know that it's one game that makes or breaks a Heisman. I think it's the body of work, and I think we're seeing that as the season, plays out. But certainly, he's going to be judged on the entire season, and there'll be a lot of eyes certainly on this particular game.
So Brian Kelly said, yeah, it's important. It's definitely important to win that game against Alabama and play good against Alabama, but you still have to continue to play like that
Right.
moving forward. In my opinion, if Jane Daniels plays well against Alabama and they run the table the rest of the way to the SEC championship game, if LSU goes to the SEC championship game, I think Jane Daniels is your Heisman Trophy winner.
Yep. Well, we definitely be up there. You said he'll definitely be at that top. He'll be invited.
Yeah.
For sure. So I'm rooting for him to go out here and have a great game and finish strong. Cause I think last year he was right there at it, right there, and then kind of at the end we had a little slip up there, but. This is a different type of year, and we've been talking about it, and we keep making that comparison with that Joe Burrow because it's the same kind of offense that we're seeing, top offense in the country and putting up points. And I think another year, I think he's ready to finish up strong.
Although the injuries were not great on the defensive side of the football, there is some good news about the injuries. I asked Brian Kelly about Emory Jones if he was going to be available because remember he also missed the Army game and got hurt against Auburn. That's when
Right.
Lance Hurd had to come in for him. And there is good news, LSU fans, about your starting right tackle.
The status of Emory Jones from his injury, and what have you seen from his Lance Hurd just to have that luxury of a guy that, as a freshman, that's played a whole lot of football and has done pretty well for y'all?
Yeah, Emery's practicing. We had him moving around last week, and he participated in our workouts. But he'll be a full go for practice today. Lance has done a great job of coming in and playing at a high level. It's great to have a true freshman that come in and compete at the level he did against Auburn and at Army. So he'll be ready and prepared if we do in fact call on him.
So good news. He's a full-time practice, full go for this week for Emory Jones. But the good thing about that is if you have to go somewhere else, Lance Hurd, a very talented true freshman, has stepped up and has played a lot of football for him in his freshman year. So you have a luxury right there if you're LSU offensive line.
And you always want to see that. You always want to see when guys go down, and like I say, you'll never want to see guys go down. But
Right.
when they go down, you would like to see those other guys step up, get those reps, get those plays, live reps, because nothing like live reps that will get you the experience that you're looking for to help build depth and all the different things, and you can feel comfortable with knowing that if something was to happen, man, I got guys that actually been in the fire, they had a chance to do it, and we know what's going on, know what it's about, and they could plug right in.
So LSU, they offensively, their numbers are great. They are number one in the country, and in really total offense, top 5 in passing, top 15 in rushing. So LSU, they're playing against a really good defense in Alabama. This is probably the toughest defense LSU has played since Florida State at the beginning of the year. So it's going to be interesting. Do you think LSU can score at will against Alabama, or do you think that they're going to need more of a help from their defense, from LSU's defense, to get a couple of stops, and or you think it's going to be a shootout from both teams?
I think I'm looking for a shootout. I'm looking for a shootout, and maybe not a 50-something score like last year where it was 40 50 points. And, that was double overtime. But I will say that it will be some points scored. There'll be some points scored because I don't think that they'll be able to stop our offense, and I think it would have been a little bit young in the secondary that we're going to give up a few plays here or there. Melrose have been playing well, but he's not been the quarterbacks we've seen from Alabama in the past. So I'm not looking for him to go out there and be Bryce Young or Tua
right
with the football, but being that we will be a little young, I think that we may have a few big eyes out there in the secondary, especially early. But I think that what the offense is going to be able to do and to keep the pressure off them, I think that we'll be pretty well and ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama has some talented defensive players. I mean, Dallas Turner, I think there's defensive end, and a lot of people are saying he's going to be a first-round pick. One of the best names in college football is in the secondary. Kool-Aid McKinstry is at cornerback, so he's a very talented cornerback. But I think if this is indeed a shootout with both offenses, LSU is definitely going to be the favorite in terms of that. If it's just going to be a shootout, both offenses matching tit for tat, I mean, because Alabama this year, they have shown flashes of hitting a lot of deep plays. Jalen Milroe, the quarterback, has thrown a lot of deep touchdown passes this year. But they have been inconsistent. It's been either like really up or really down.
Right.
They just, as far as putting it consistently together, they just really haven't done that. But Alabama's dangerous. They can score if they need to. But I just don't think consistently they can score on every single drive like LSU is capable of doing.
Right, and you kind of saw that against Tennessee. That first half they only had 7 points. It was 20-7, but they did come back the second half, and they turned it up. So we can hold them down. I think if we hold them to 7 in the first half, I don't think they come back.
Yeah, because like you said, that was a good point you made, Marcus. They've been a tale of really two different teams.
Correct.
First half, they've really been struggling this year in a lot of their games, but the second half, we've seen more of the old Alabama that we've seen.
So I think if they have those jitters early, then I think that we jump on them and we hold that thing.
Oh, LSU's going to have to take advantage of that.
We better hold it on right long. Yeah.
And I think so. If LSU is able to take advantage, if Alabama starts off the game slow, like they've been doing the last couple of SEC games, then LSU can definitely make them pay and take advantage of it. And I'm liking LSU's chances. So even though Alabama's played excellent in the second half, I think that might just be a little too much for them to overcome. Because I think if you give LSU a 2-touchdown lead, I just don't see how you can stop that offense 3 consecutive drives in a row.
Yep.
So it's going to be very interesting. A lot of, Nick Saban, you can't count out Nick Saban. You played for Nick Saban.
Don't do that.
So,
you
know that for sure. So, what do you think about this year's Alabama team? Because, early in the year against South Florida, I think a lot of Alabama fans and a lot of fans in general were saying, oh, this is it. This is the end. This is it. They only scored like 10 points, 13 points against South Florida, but they've rebounded again. Now it hasn't looked like dominant or complete at times. Like you said, Tennessee, they started off slow and they turned out second half. Texas A&M.
Losing to Texas early.
Yeah, losing Texas early.
And like you say, South Florida, those were, games early on where they looked like we were like, okay, the streak is gone. But then they come on, and what a Nick Saban team is he's gonna always try to find those things to make them better and to get them back up to playing up to par. He's not gonna let them just fall off the cliff.
Right.
So you have seen more of the old Alabama coming back on, but like you say, it still hasn't been consistent across the board.
And also another mark, Jaden Daniels is trying to become the first quarterback to defeat Nick Saban in Alabama 2 years in a row.
Correct.
since Drew Brees, going all the way back to his Michigan State days.
Oh, to Michigan State. I was about to say.
Yep, all the way back.
Come on.
Now, a lot of people are saying, okay, what about Jordan Jefferson from LSU? Because LSU, that's the last time they were able to beat Bama 2 years in a row.
Right.
But there was one game. There was one game I think
championship.
Jefferson started, in the other game, Jared Lee. Jared Lee.
Jefferson came in.
Yep, right,
Then we
right.
ran the option on
Yep,
him. and that was the
yep.
one where we kind of got him, and we came back with the same game plan for the championship. It wasn't the same.
Yeah, it wasn't the same. I think Bama. I mean,
Right.
they tried running. LSU tried running that option.
Right,
I think the
right.
first play,
Yep.
and I was like, yeah, I think it's gonna work this
And
next
I think
time
that was the
around.
only thing we must have worked that year on offense.
I think
going
so.
into that game.
A lot of differences from that 2011 game to about we got the 2019 game.
Yep.
This is probably going to be more on the 2019
Yeah,
side
right,
than the
definitely.
2011 side.
Definitely more on that side. Yep.
So, with that being said, do you have a final score prediction or just any predictions at all for this huge game between LSU, Alabama? The winner of this game pretty much controls your destiny in the SEC West. You still have Ole Miss, who's in there as well, that is in top of the SEC West, but they do have to play Georgia, and so a lot of people are saying that they're going to lose to Georgia. So really, the winner of this game, it can make things complicated because Alabama beat Ole Miss beat LSU.
Right.
If LSU beats Alabama, you have yourself a three-way tie right now.
Yep.
So it can make things complicated.
How do they do the three-way ties? I never really seen that one.
Yeah, so
I can't remember that one. Do they go to points or we go to
yeah,
points scored? Or?
I'm sure we'll get to that bridge when we cross it because I don't know what
I
they'll
know
do
if it's
right
tied
now.
up, maybe you go to head to head. But I never seen the three-way.
Yeah.
Three-way split there.
Yeah,
I'd
but
love to see it.
I don't think it's going to happen just because Ole Miss does have to play Georgia.
Okay, right,
yeah,
right.
and
right.
so that can give them a potential second loss in the conference.
So this is the game.
So this is really the game.
It's the game.
To decide the SEC West.
So I mean, going back to the points, though, I know we are underdogs by 3. If I saw correctly going into this game.
Yeah, I think the line's been moving
I got it
up
by
and
10.
down.
I got it by 10.
Okay, it's going to be like a 40. Is it going to be?
If I just had to give it 24-34.
Okay.
I think 24-34 or 35-24.
Okay. Think Jane Daniels gets like 3 or 4 touchdowns. Yeah.
Definitely. I think the running back's going to get a couple, and I think Malik Neighbor is going to be able to do what he need to do. Brian Thomas. So I'm looking at 5 touchdowns in there somewhere.
Okay, yeah, 34-24. So you heard it from Marcus, and actually we had the show with Ron Brooks against Auburn. He actually predicted the score right. Ron Brooks, I give a shout out to Ron Brooks,
Shout out,
former
Ron.
LSU member LSU DBU.
Yep.
So I mean, Marcus, it's always been a pleasure having the show with you and talking some LSU football with you.
Always a pleasure.
Yep. Obviously, Marcus is wearing his purple and gold right now. He had to.
I couldn't come without it.
He had to take his Woodlawn stuff off and make sure he got the LSU stuff on.
Yep.
Yep. But this is going to be a huge game. I think LSU is ranked 14th in the college football playoff poll. Alabama is 8th. So to wrap this up, a 2-loss SEC champion in LSU. Let's say they beat Alabama, they run the table, they beat Georgia in the SEC championship game. Does a 2-loss SEC champion make the playoff?
They in.
They're in?
They in.
Yeah, with I guess you're saying wins against Alabama and Georgia.
Resume look too good.
Yeah.
It looked too good. Yep. And then you have an Ole Miss team that you lost to, but like you say, they've still been right in the top of the, in the top of it. Yeah,
and in Florida State, you can probably make the argument they're the
Yep.
best team in the entire country
correct
right now.
Yep. The way they've been playing. So I mean, your strength of schedule look real good.
Well, it's going to be easier next year, Marcus, because it's going to come from a 4-team playoff to a 12-team playoff.
Right.
So we'll get to see that.
It wouldn't even be a
more
question
and more.
right
Yeah,
now.
it wouldn't be a question. I think LSU finds a spot if obviously when there's a 12-team playoff, but you got one more year of the 4-team playoff, and we'll see what happens really next year with the 12-team. I'm really excited about it, and I think it gives a lot more teams a chance and opportunity to go and see what they can do.
Especially for those teams that that get hot late in the season that might not start off and get to some of those early losses. You give them a chance to show that they bounce back and they can still be considered one of the best teams in the country.
Yep. Well, you heard from Marcus. Expecting LSU win on Saturday, so certainly hoping so. It's a huge game, LSU and Alabama, and it's just it's even more sweeter if LSU can beat Alabama. And they've actually in years past they've beaten Alabama. They've been more successful on the road at Alabama than they've really been at Tiger Stadium against Alabama. So we'll see what happens. But regardless, I know myself and Marcus, we're going to be talking about recapping the game, and hopefully we'll be recapping a lot of really good things between the Tigers and the Crimson Tide. So we'll see. This is a huge game. Make sure you check out our website, gridironfootballusa.com. We got some LSU coverage this week. We're also working on the Gridiron Football Bowl game, so kind of hot and heavy with that. But there's still going to be some LSU content. There will be a game preview posted pretty soon, and then there will also be a game recap of see what happens between LSU and Alabama. Marcus, always a pleasure, and looking forward to talking next time, and hopefully we'll be talking about Tigers win.
Let's do it, baby.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Marcus Randall, former LSU quarterback. Obviously, y'all know him from the Bluegrass Miracle. Was a great quarterback here in his playing days for the LSU Tigers. And hopefully we get to see another great quarterback play on Saturday in Jaden Daniels. Hope y'all enjoyed the game this week. And go Tigers. And